And individually, the students will be assessed on playing the head and then playing this ascending arpeggio study, which they will not have to have memorized. And then take the head out. And now, similar to the structure of previous years, we're going to learn the descending arpeggios. So now instead of 1, 3, 5, 7 in quarter notes, now it's 8, 7, 5, 3. So as a check for understanding, I'm going to have the students identify what the only pitch is that makes the Mixolydian arpeggio different from Aeolian or Dorian. And the answer is the third. And I think the reason it's important to have all these checks for understanding is just because, I know I've said it before, but I think just a really solid theoretical or music theory knowledge is very, very, very important to jazz improvisation. And then the students are going to play this descending arpeggio study, and then the rest is the same as last week's assessment. So now that they've played the arpeggios, now we're going to play linear, Aeolian, and Mixolydian modes at the appropriate times during these chord changes. And what's going to determine if it's Aeolian or Mixolydian is whether or not it's a dominant 7 chord or a minor 7 chord. So the first minor 7 chord, and take the A train, is measure 5. Measure 1 through 4 will be Mixolydian. So the students are going to have a sheet that has the chord changes below it, and it will have either the Mixolydian or the Aeolian scale starting on the root of each chord in eighth notes going up. So now it's the same thing, but descending instead of ascending. They'll be given a descending Aeolian and Mixolydian scale study. And like I said, what determines if it's Aeolian or Mixolydian is if it's a dominant 7 chord or if it's a minor 7 chord. And I'd really like them to memorize the head to take the A train, so they're going to play through that head at least twice. And then Roman numeral analysis for take the A train. So not only is it important for them to know the chords and what modes or scales you can play over the chords, it's also important for them to really understand the Roman numeral analysis, especially because we're going to be doing 2-5-1s in the coming weeks. So in anticipation of that, I'm going to have them analyze this with Roman numeral analysis, and I'm going to give them the root to each chord, of course, and we'll discuss what Roman numeral analysis is, and that chords are built of thirds. So the 2 chord is 2, 4, and 6, and that's a minor chord. So we'll talk about capital letters versus lowercase, or large numbers versus, or large Roman numerals versus small Roman numerals, which distinguishes major and minor. And then here's the assessment along with the answers to the assessment. Let's make sure that you can see that all right. There we go. So here in week 10 is where week 8 is where we introduce the 2-5-1 concept, and we apply it to take the A train. Take the A train was used as the head because, or as the head to introduce the 2-5-1 concept because it consists of a lot of 2-5-1s throughout the head. So what a 2-5-1 is a predominant 2 followed by a dominant 5 followed by a tonic 1. And that is a very, very commonly used set of 3 chords in all jazz music. So much so that they're 2-5-1 studies, meaning that they're little chunks of transcriptions that various soloists have, are that consist of patterns or different note choices that various soloists have played over 2-5-1s, and those are put into just 2-5-1 studies. And the students are going to be provided with a list of 10 2-5-1s, and they're going to be given these in all of the keys that the 2-5-1s and Take the A Train consists of. So using the lead sheet and the chords to take the A train, the students will identify at least one set of measure numbers in which a 251 appears. Below are the answers: measures 6 to 7, 8 to 9, 14 to 15, 16 to 17. So now, because C major is the first 251 in Take the A Train, and that occurs in measure 6 to 7, we are going to learn a few 251s in C major and prepare to play those to guide our soloing, to work those 251s into improvising over the head, and then, or over the chord changes. And then we're going to learn a new head, which is All the Things You Are, which is one of the next really must-know jazz standards for a jazz musician. So students, like I said, will be given a set of 10 251s. So in the case of C major, it's D minor, G dominant 7, and then C. And the students will learn and memorize 2 of these patterns, and at least once they'll play through, we will all play through the head of Take the A Train, and I'll let student volunteers solo, and then I'll introduce the lead sheet to All the Things You Are. And they'll play through both 251s of their choice from memory, as long as they're in C major. And the reason that's important is because in the coming weeks they're going to be playing these 251s during the chord changes and during that segment of Take the A Train where there's a 251 in the key of C, which that concept is called solo crafting, which is when you improvise over a chorus, but there's one little chunk of the chorus that you do not improvise, and you play a pattern, and the purpose of that is in hopes that that pattern will guide other soloistic ideas. So students will be given a blank staff paper for the whole form of Take the A Train with the chords written under each bar, and everything will be blank except the chords, but the 3 measures that involve the 251, actually I guess it's only 2 measures in this case, that involve the 251 will be written into it. And I'm going to introduce the term solo crafting, and students are going to solo craft. So they're going to play through the 251, they're going to start improvising over the chord changes to Take the A Train. And once the 251 appears, the whole class will play that 251 together. And then the student volunteer will continue improvising. And then when the 251 appears again, then as a class we'll all play that 251 together as it appears. Students will improvise over Take the A Train using accurate linear and arpeggiated motion based on Mixolydian and Aeolian, and play the 251 when it appears in the form. So the 2 major kinds of 251s are quick 251s and long 251s. So Take the A Train has a lot of examples of quick 251s. And what that means is that the 2 chord falls on beat 1 of the first measure, the 5 chord falls on beat 3 of the first measure, and the 1 chord falls on beat 1 of the second measure. And a long 251 means each chord gets 1 measure. So the 2 chord is 4 beats total, the 5 chord is 4 beats total, the 1 chord is 4 beats total. So we're going to discuss that difference, and we're going to ask students to identify what kinds of 251s appear in Take the A Train as a check for understanding. And the correct answer is quick 251s. So then, because All the Things You Are has plenty of the opposite example, long 251s, where I'll have students analyze the chord changes to All the Things You Are. And I'll point out key changes so that they understand where to find the 251s and what one is, because they're in the B section, it modulates to a different key. So for the Roman numerals would be different. And the students will have to identify one long 251, like I said, and then they'll be given a sheet that consists of long 251s in all of the keys that All the Things You Are long 251s happen over. And then students will play 2 long 251s and identify which measures they should be played in All the Things You Are based on which keys they're in. And then we're going to review the head, analyze the chord changes, and apply the 251 concept to All the Things You Are.